You know, it's always a treat when we get to go see movies that we've loved on the big screen again. You know, I've got a 100-inch TV hanging on a beautiful 100-inch TV hanging on my wall with a Sonos surround sound speaker. It's great. It's great, but it's garbage compared to actually being in a movie theater and watching these movies the way they've been meant to see. And one of the best examples of that is The Lord of the Rings. Now, around where we live, and probably a lot around where you guys live too, Lord of the Rings re-releases in theaters aren't all that unusual, but there's a big one coming up for the 25th anniversary. This comes to us from the folks over at Variety, who said this thing's pre-sales have already exceeded, the pre-sales for this re-release has already exceeded $5 million at the box office. Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy is returning to theaters for the 25th anniversary of the Fellowship of the Ring, and cinephiles seem eager to return to Middle-earth. Showtimes for the three films, Fellowship of the Ring, only on January 16th, The Two Towers on January 17th, and Return of the King on January 18th, have generated $5 million domestically in pre-sales, with roughly 500,000 tickets sold so far. That's 65% ahead of the company's last Lord of the Rings re-release in 2024, which had about 250,000 tickets sold at the same point sales cycle, and those went on to earn $8.2 million over the same weekend. So now, granted, we are hitting a significant anniversary, the 25th anniversary, which is great. But Rob, these movies are now going back to Fellowship, 25 years old.
Yeah.
And they're available on streaming, and they are re-released in theaters here and there all the time. And yet still, for this 25th anniversary, the advanced ticket sales are above what some new release movies are making, with over 5 million in advanced tickets. Rob, we all know The Lord of the Rings is one of the greatest trilogies ever made. Some would argue the greatest. Not me, but it's right up there.
Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. You know, the new year doesn't require a new you, maybe just a less burdened you. Most of us carry around things like pressure, self-doubt, or that feeling that we always have to be perfect, and learning to let some of that go can make a huge difference in our lives. Therapy can help you better understand what's weighing you down by giving you an unbiased perspective on your relationships, motivations, and emotions. That's where BetterHelp comes in. See, BetterHelp connects you with quality therapists who are fully licensed in the US and follow a strict professional code of conduct. They also do the matching work for you. You fill out a short questionnaire, and with over 12 years of experience and industry-leading match rates, they usually get it right the first time. And if you ever want to switch therapists, you can do that easily from their tailored recommendations. BetterHelp is also one of the world's largest online therapy platforms, plus an average 4.9 out of 5 rating from over 1.7 million live session reviews. BetterHelp makes it easy to match online with a qualified therapist. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/Campea. That's BETTERHELP.com/Campea.
We already know the movie's great. What is it about this movie? What it is about the culture surrounding these movies that keeps people coming back to see them again and again in theaters, to the point that we've now got $5 million in box office on pre-sales alone for just 3 days? What's the magic sauce here? How do you see it?
Well, I think you said it, and you said it a zillion times on this show. They're experiential events. They're events that provide everything you want movies to provide. But most of all, you go through an engrossing emotional experience watching these films that all three movies lead up. They take you on a journey internally, externally, of adventure, excitement, fantasy, introspection, friendship. In a way, The Lord of the Rings, and especially how the Fellowship works, is a lot like real life, believe it or not. If you think about traversing all the things that Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin have to deal with, they're us. We're the hobbits. And I think that everybody can kind of identify immediately when Frodo opens his mouth and says, "You're late." You know, and a wizard is never late.
It's never late.
Baggins. You know, I mean, as soon as that happens, after, you watch this really interesting Kate Blanchett history of the world in 5 minutes, and you're in. But when you get into the Shire, we all live in the Shire, or we want to. You know, a nice bucolic neighborhood where your neighbors are out sweeping, judgmental neighbors that look at Gandalf with a scowl on their face, kids that are excited with fireworks, you know, so you immediately love these people and this place. And it falls to them to save the world. It's the ultimate wish fulfillment, I think, of just any normal human being. And the message is that anybody can make a difference. Anybody can. And if you have your friends with you, and you have people that believe in you, if you have teachers, and sometimes you might be working with somebody that turns out to be a villain, and then you've got the fantasy and the excitement of it all, and the wonder, and the crazy wizards, and the orcs, and Minas Tirith, and Theoden, and a red dawn. You know, I mean, and the beacons of Gondor are lit. Come on, dude, with a Howard Shore score, and you're the cameras and Peter Jackson's direction. I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. I love those movies, and you know what? They never fail to deliver. I've seen those movies. I've worked on the special features, watched them countless times, and I still sit down and watch them just like The Godfather. I can't stop. You know, just recently, I don't know, a couple months back, I went back and watched the extended version of Return of the King, and I'm like, God damn, this movie's good. And to see it if you haven't seen it on a big screen, it's like when they brought Star Wars back. You know, the Star Wars special edition came out in 97, and that was only 20 years after Star Wars came out. And they showed you the trailer with the little TV screen, and they had the X-Wing fighter come out of the TV. I mean, it's 25 years. You have a whole new generation of people that never saw these movies on the big screen. And to see these movies in a decent theater with a decent sound system, talk about experiential event. And you know what? It never gets old. A whole new generation. Think about it, man. There's kids that are like 8 and 9 years old that have not seen these movies at all. And their parents get to take them to a movie theater and see it. They're gonna. I
remember when the pandemic happened. The two biggest ones ever all submitted. When the pandemic was going on and all we had to do was to stay home and watch movies, there were two that really stood out that everybody wrote in that said, I finally watched. One was the Godfather films, and the other was the Lord of the Rings. The number of people who wrote and said, I never saw Godfather. I'm like, really? And then the number of people who wrote and said they never saw Lord of the Rings. Rob, when you bring up that scene of, you know, a wizard is never late.
And that's just the first 10 minutes.
He arrives precisely when he means to. And then he gets in the cart. They ride over the hill, and you see the Shire. Now, you got to understand that I didn't read a lot of novels as a kid, but The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings were ones that I did. And it was the first moment I think I ever wept in a theater when they go over the hill and you see the Shire,
the bridge,
and you hear that Alan Shore music. And you like
Howard Shore.
Alan Shore's Howard Shore. Sorry. Yeah, that's James Spader's character on Boston Legal.
It's Ultron.
Howard Shore's music, and you see the Shire. I wept,
dude,
because I've never had a moment in any movie ever where something literally bounded out of my imagination the way I always pictured it would be. And Star Wars to me is still the number one trilogy of all time. That'll never be touched, but it never made me cry. And there's like 5 moments that if I even today sit down and watch Lord of the Rings, I get choked up and get weepy. The Shire scene, obviously, light the beacons. The beacons have been lit. Gondor calls for aid.
That just gives me chills again.
The whole thing about obviously when they say, "My friends, you bow to no one." I get choked up and teary eyed. It is just a film experience. And then we haven't even touched, Rob, on just the grand epic nature of them. The Battle of Helm's Deep, the Battle of Gondor, it's just so grand and huge too. There has never been films like The Lord of the Rings. And Rob, I'll go so far as to say this. There will never be films like The Lord of the Rings.
No, because, you had an entire country, literally the entire country of New Zealand. The entire country helped. and the landscape and the fact that it was that, talk about an, if there's such a thing as an artisanal film, it was handcrafted by all the clever people. When I was working, we started working on the special features for the extended versions, and none of us had seen any of the movie. And they had, the first time they ever showed any of Lord of the Rings was at Cannes. They showed a 20-minute reel at the Cannes Film Festival. I want to say Cannes, it might have been 2001, because that was the year that it came out. And we were begging New Line, please, please, please let us see it. Like, because what if it's not good? But the Cannes notices of the 20 minutes were it was like the team of us. There was like 25 of us. And we're sitting in this room, the New Line screening room, the one on the first floor. And dude, I was gobsmacked, and most of it was the Mines of Moria sequence.
Oh,
and the scale of it, and like the fantasy was never my jam. Like, I loved Excalibur, but they'd never really nailed fantasy on screen. Dragon Slayer was good but not great. We watched that sequence, and the first thing we were saying, like, oh my God, can you run it again? They didn't, but I mean, it was insane watching it, and I'm like, I've never seen fantasy depicted on screen like this before. When they knock over the thing and it falls like down the well, when you hear the ding, 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 and then then you hear the stirring in the Mines of Moria. And I mean, in the theater, the sound, I'm like, oh my God, what is going to happen? It was so awesome. And I mean, seeing those movies in a theater was just, and we'd worked on all the special features before we saw. I mean, we were 6 months in, and it was like, oh my God, to see those. And every time I've ever watched those movies, I feel the same way. I never get tired of it.
I still get it too. Anyway,
I want to
guys,
go see them again in the theater just to see the kids respond to, it's like when I saw School of Rock.
I just want to see it myself.
But I love
Anyway,
I love seeing everybody respond to it.
Question is for you. What do you think about this? The 25th anniversary re-release of Lord of the Rings has already generated $5 million in ticket sales, despite the fact that they've been in theaters a bunch and you can stream them right now. Are you planning to go see them again? I certainly would like to. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.